In this lecture, we are going to understand the flow of React as a single page application, which implies how React.js works under the hood. Quickly open up the index.html. Command B to pop up the Explorer. Client, public, and here is it, index.html. Let's go ahead to open up the index.js and the app.js. Proceed to the source, which is the src, index.js, and here is it. Lastly, we have to open up the app.js. Command B to close down the Explorer. Let's begin with the index.html. Scroll down. I want you to take note of this div with the ID of root. It is extremely important. As a matter of fact, this div with the ID of root serves as a container for the entire application. Let's head on to the index.js. The index.js is the entry point of every React application. So, for best explanation, before we proceed, we are going to downgrade the application to React 17. And when I'm done with the explanation, we are going to bring it back to React 18. So, right on lines 2, highlight the client, wipe it off. Over here, highlight, wipe it off. And as well, we have to highlight again, Command X to cut. Place a comma right here and paste. So we have to take off the semicolon, the brackets, and this other bracket over here. So we have to remove the root. We are going to use the React DOM to access it. Copy, paste it here. And next, we just have to take off the strict mode. Beautiful. Now we have succeeded in downgrading the application to React 17. Okay? All I want you to do in this lecture is to sit quietly and pay maximum attention to my explanation. So let's proceed to understand how React.js works under the hood. At the top, we have React imported from React module. Below, we have React DOM from React DOM module. The React DOM helps to tie the low-level DOM of HTML with the high-level DOM of React. And also, the React DOM has a method called render. And the render method takes in two parameters. The first parameter is the element, which in this case, a React element to be rendered. The second parameter is a vanilla JavaScript, which is document.getElement by ID. And it says, hey, I want to bind with the DOM element in the HTML. Precisely a certain DOM element with the ID of root. Okay? And this DOM element with the ID of root is found right within the HTML file. Here is it. So what React does is to inject the first parameter into the DOM element with the ID of root. So in simplicity, whatever you have here as the first parameter will be passed down into the root DOM node. It is going to be seated right within this div. And more importantly, the index.html is the only page that is saved on the browser in order to display whatever you pass in as the first parameter into the root DOM node. Alright, so this approach of rendering components on a single page and changing the DOM exhibits the single page behavior. And hence, we can say that React.js is used to build a single page application. Let me break it down. Back to the index.js. So over here, I'm going to take off the app component as the first parameter. Wipe it off. So I'm going to have a h1 tag. Right within the h1 tag, I'm going to do and now let's save the application to see what happens. Save. Boom. Can you see? The h1 tag is displayed on the browser. So when we inspect the element, right click, inspect. Right here, you are going to see the index.html file, which is the only page that is saved on the browser. So let's try to open up the body. When you open up the body, you are going to see the div with the ID of root. So let's quickly open up this div. Can you see? The h1 tag is injected right within this div with the ID of root. It's as simple as that. Understood? Beautiful. Let's take it one more time. Alright, so whatever you have here as the first parameter will be injected right in between the div with the ID of root. And the div with the ID of root is located right here in the index.html. So the index.html is the only page that is saved on the browser in order to display whatever you injected in between the div. And that is why when you inspect the console, you are going to see the h1 tag in between the div with the ID of root. Best explanation. Teaching good? Beautiful. So again, go back to VS Code, index.js. So let's wipe it off and bring back the app component. And by the way, the app component is imported at the top. And when you save on the browser, boom, and you are going to see the landing page. So let's unveil the App.js. Back to VS Code, App.js. And over here in the App.js, we have a div with the class name of app. Okay? And we have a header. Here, we have the img tag that describes this logo over here that is continuously spinning on the screen. We have the p tag. Here is it. And lastly, we have the a tag. This is it right here. So right here, we have the body, and here is the div with the ID of root. Let's open it up. Can you see? When you open up the div with the ID of root, you are going to see another div with the class name of app. And here is it. Let's open up the div. We are going to see the header with the class name of app header. And here is it. Let's open up the header. So we have the rest of the content, such as the img tag, which describes the logo. We have the p tag. Can you see? And lastly, we have the a tag. So it's as simple as that. Let's quickly bring back the app to React 18. Index.js, and then we just have to undo. And now we have upgraded the app again to React 18. And it's exactly the same thing. The app component is over here as the first parameter, and it is going to pass through this line of code into the div with the ID of root. And here is it. And you should always recall that the div with the ID of root is found here in the index.html. And the index.html is the only page that is saved on the browser in order to display whatever content you injected in between this div. And that's it. This is all for now. See you in the next lecture. Stay focused and always take care.